Hello everyone, picking back up with this on chapter 2, day 0, or 0 days until Halloween. Applause erupted from the crowd at the appearance of their beloved Halloween leader. The night's success was due to Jack Skellington. It was every year a debonair skeleton. Jack had once more delivered the most scares in a single night. His ghoulish grin had caused an entire sleepover party to burst into tears. His bone-crackling jig had made countless parents drop their trick-or-treaters' candy bags and run. Truly, the Pumpkin King had earned his title for another year. And his clever performance as the Scarecrow had been. The whipped scream on the pumpkin pie, the witch sister oohed and awed at the handsome skeleton tossing their pointed hats into the air as the rest of the townsfolk congratulated themselves on a job well done. The clown with the tearaway face balanced on his tiny unicycle as the pinwheeled as he pinwheeled his arms in the air and exclaimed, "It's over. We did it," agreed Behemoth, offering his massive belly for a squishy chest bump with the clown. Wasn't it terrifying? The Wolfman said the Wolfman bearing his claws at Mr. Hyde and the Cyclops in fond memory of the night's scares. What a night, the two of them agreed in his excitement. Mr. Hyde wrapped the chain around the Cyclops' neck, choking him, but the one-eyed monster giggling soon turned into a giggle. Gaggle turned into, okay, whatever, I can't read. Still wearing his rosy face, the mayor bounced through the crowd, agreeing to be seen standing near Halloween Town's greatest star. "Great Halloween, everybody," he declared. Jack continued to bow and wave away the praise of his adoring crowd, then nimbly stepped off the fountain as the monsters moved aside to make room for him. "I believe it was our most horrible yet," Jack agreed, with a gentlemanly bow from his great height. He pressed a bony hand to his rib cage. "Thank you, everyone." "No, thank you, Jack," the mayor chimed in. "Without your brilliant leadership." Jack waved away the praise. "Not at all, Mayor." A vampire with gleaming fangs pushed in. "You're such a scream, Jack." The witch sisters with mossy cruise elbows way to the front of the crowd, where she cooed, "You're a witch's fondest dream, not to be undone," her green-skinned sister purred. "You made walls fall, Jack." "Walls fall," the first witch interrupted. "You made the very mountains crack, Jack," she battered. Her cobweb crusted eyelashes at him and flashed a smile that showed off the mossy mold growing on her teeth. Someone get that chick some toothpaste and a toothbrush fast. Watching from behind the hanging tree, the rag doll named Sally giggled to herself at the sight of Jack fending off his many admirers. The thick stitching holding her neck and arms was amateurish compared to the fine stitches that formed her dress of scrap fabric, but that was to be expected. She'd sewn the dress herself, whereas her scientific-minded creator, Dr. Finkelstein, had inexpertly sewn her. Dr. Finkelstein hadn't given Sally a heart like her head. Her chest was packed with dry leaves and rags, yet she somehow felt a phantom patter at the sight of the Pumpkin King. How happy she was to be here with the townsfolk instead of locked away in Finkelstein's castle. Thank goodness the deadly nightshade she had placed into her creator's tea had knocked him out long enough for her to escape. Out of nowhere, a small, black-gloved hand reached out and grabbed her wrist. Sully gasped, trying to pull away. Dr. Finkelstein leered up at her through the dark glasses that protected his sensitive eyes. She saw herself reflected in the black lenses. The painted-on features of her ragdoll face looked startled and big. The deadly nightshade you slipped me wore off, Sally. She tugged at her arm as she tried to pull away. Let go. You're not ready for so much excitement, Dr. Finkelstein explained evenly. He reminded himself that he had to be patient with new creations like Sally. They were all curious in their first months of life, but that curiosity soon faded once they'd experienced a bit of freedom and gotten it out of their systems. It was taking longer than expected with Sally, though. I might have accidentally gotten some cat fur in her stuffing, he thought. That could explain her relentless curiosity. Sally continued to tug uselessly as she insisted, Yes, I am. The doctor's electric wheelchair gave a buzzing drone as he mashed the button on it to spin around and drag her towards the castle. You're coming with me, he growled. His hand was small but claw-like and strong as he pulled her along. No, I'm not. She dug in her heels, but her cloth boots only slid over the smooth stone path. It wasn't fair. Every single creature in Halloween Town was celebrating the best night of the year, and she didn't want to sit locked in a dark tower all alone, mending lab coats and polishing scalpels. On impulse, Sally tugged on the dark blue thread that attached her right arm to the place just below her shoulder. The string unraveled from the cloth, and she fell back, separating from her own arm. She gasped, feeling unwhole. The dismembered arm continued free in Dr. Finkelstein's hands, causing him to tumble backwards, and fall out of his wheelchair. Seeing her creator lying helpless on the road, Sally stepped backward hesitantly. Could she just leave him and her arm behind? The doctor's lips peeled back and shows small sharp teeth. Come back here, you foolish owl. Her dismembered arm must have felt equally upset because it formed a fist and pounded on Dr. Finkelstein's titanium scalp. I did not know it was supposed to be titanium. He sputtered, "Oh, ow," breathing heavily. Sally blinked her her doll eyes a few times and then turned and ran. I'm sorry, arm. I'll find you again soon. As Sally disappeared into the shadows, the din of the town's celebration grew louder. Monsters pressed in towards Jack, each trying to outdo the other to win the Pumpkin King's favor. Oh, Jack, you made wounds ooze and flesh crawl, the undersea gal moaned, leaning so close that she brain. Lenley sprayed land on his lapel. Her green scale and fan-like fins on the side of her neck were slick. Her orange eyes blinked enticingly as her pointed blue fingernails reached out for the Pumpkin King. Jack backed away slowly, holding out his bony hands beseechingly. Thank you, thank you. Almost moving as one atmosphere. Sorry about that, bit my tongue. Amorphous blob, the crowd pressed even closer. Jack noticed the town's stone wall at his back, trapping him, granting a long dead skeleton. Didn't need to breathe, but he certainly needed space. The townsfolk had been like this all night, plotting his every scare, oohing at his dancing. It was flattering, truly so very kind of them, and yet suffocating. Stifling. Thank you very much, Jack said tightly, feeling more than a twinkle of irritation. Why was he so bothered by the attention. He spent all year looking forward to Halloween, and he'd truly outdone himself that night. Even finishing off the evening with his dramatic bonfire dance to give the townspeople one final surprise. But he was, but if he was honest, he hadn't felt quite the same enthusiasm that year year before. In fact, something had been shifting every Halloween for the past few years. He'd throw his heart and undead soul into making Halloween plans, but something had been missing. It all felt so predictable. Couldn't a skeleton get a few minutes alone? He glanced over his shoulders, eyeing the high stone wall. He could make the jump. Suddenly, a loud voice on a megaphone announced from the town square, "Hold it, we haven't given out the prizes yet." "Oh," cried the crowd, turning away from Jack. "Thank you, Mayor," Jack thought. The lure of prizes was enough to draw the crowd back towards the town square, the mayor beaming proudly on his dais, hoisted a golden trophy over his shoulder. "Our first award," he declared into his megaphone, "goes to the vampires for most blood drained in a single evening." Polite applause filled the town square as the vampires glided on air up to the bandstand to accept their trophy. While the crowd was distracted, Jack took a few steps. He hoped no one in the crowd turned around and spotted him sneaking off. A frightening and horrible mention goes to the fabulous Dark Lagoon leeches. The mayor's voice continued from the megaphone as Jack tiptoed away from the crowd, careful not to crush loud dead leaves beneath his dry bones. Once he felt certain he was in the clear, he sighed in relief. The weight of the world seemed to slip off his shoulders. Finally free, he hammered down the pathway from the center of town and past the trio of musicians that made up the undead ensemble, playing a morose serenade in front of the cemetery gate. He tossed a coin into the mouth of the saxophone. "Nice work, Bone Daddy," the sax player said. "Yeah, I guess so," Jack said over his shoulder as the graveyard gate rose for him. "Just like last year, and the year before that, and the year before that." He wandered into the cemetery in a fog of melancholy, not certain why that year felt so different from years past. End of chapter 2. I do hope you're enjoying this so far. Please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll see all of you in the next episode. Goodbye.